Hey, friend, welcome back to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. I am your host, Heather, and I've been podcasting on Tudor England since 2009 with my show, which makes it the original Tudor History Podcast. This channel is where I put all of my episodes from all of my shows, as well as tons of extra content like this video right here. Today, we are going to talk about another nighttime video, another sleep-related middle-of-the-night video. So I've gone down this rabbit hole because there's a book called At Day's Close, Nighttime in Times Past, or something like that. It's funny because all the things that we talk about, all the events that happen, all of that is obviously when people are awake and during the day and everything like that, right? But there's this whole other half of life, which happens at nighttime. And the Tudors and people in pre-modern societies, before there was electricity, before there was all of the kind of control over time that we have now with clocks and alarm clocks and lighting and all of that kind of stuff. It was a very different world for people. And I'm at this period in my life right now where I'm up in the middle of the night quite a bit. If you are a woman of a certain age, you might relate to that. So I'm going to say about that right now. But I am up in the middle of the night quite regularly. And it's had me thinking about kind of what nighttime was like for people in previous times before there was electricity and the ability to, just kind of like doom scroll on your phone or read a book on your phone or watch TV or turn on a light or anything like that. So it's had me kind of really going down this rabbit hole of nighttime and how people slept. And I think it's absolutely fascinating, actually. It's one of these things you just really don't think about all that much, but it's absolutely fascinating. So today we are going to talk about why the Tudors feared the midnight hour, the witching hour, what happened in between the two sleeps, and kind of some thoughts they had about that. So let's get into it. But before we do, if you are not already subscribed to this channel and you want to see more Tudor content in your YouTube feed, who doesn't? Go ahead and hit subscribe so you never miss out on a video that we put out. All right, so to start with, let's talk about this hour in between sleeps, hour or two in between sleeps. So it's the middle of the night. The fire had burned low already. The last candle flickered in its holder and was out. There was smoke curling up into the dark. It was midnight. And in Tudor England, this was not actually a time for sleeping. This was the time in between sleeps, what some people called the witching hour. After the first period of rest, it was common to wake up naturally for an hour or so. This is the whole two sleeps thing where the Tudors slept in two distinct first sleep and second sleep with time in between. And that was what was very common before there was electricity, before there was artificial lighting. People would go to bed with the sunset, wake up in the middle of the night, have some time to pray or read or meditate. You would feed the fire, put fresh logs on the fire, hang out with your family very quietly. It was just a very peaceful time in the middle of the night. Others would just be still and just listen to the sounds. But you were, generally awake for an hour or so overnight, and then you would go back to sleep and wake up with the sunrise. Many people loved this time. Many people really enjoyed this peaceful time in the middle of the night, but others feared it because many Tudors believed that the hours between midnight and 2 a.m. were when the spirits stirred and witches traveled and the boundaries between the living and the dead were thinning. So like I said, Tudor sleep wasn't like our sleep today, or at least what people think our sleep is, because what I've realized now that I'm kind of up in the middle of the night is there's a lot of people who are up in the middle of the night, right? We have this idea that you go to bed at, 10 or 11 and you wake up at 6 or 7 and you just sleep the whole night through. But actually a lot of people get up. It was especially common before there was artificial lighting because people would just go to bed with the sunset. So most people didn't sleep straight through the night. They slept in these two distinct phases. The first sleep typically began shortly after sundown and lasted till about midnight. And after that came an hour or two of wakefulness before the second sleep. Now, obviously, this was different in the winter versus the summer because the sun obviously set much earlier. The sun in England sets in the winter at like 4 o'clock, 3:30, something like that. So, you don't necessarily go to bed then. So this would change between the seasons. But, just kind of in general, you go to bed a little after sunset, sleep until midnight, wake up, and then go back to sleep until sunrise. During that in-between time, a lot of people got up quietly. Like I said, they stoked the fire, they visited the privy. Some used the time for prayer or meditation. Others reflected on their dreams, sometimes interpreting them as signs or warnings. But it was also a time of stillness and unease. The house was dark, the village was silent, and in the absence of activities, minds would wander. Nightmares lingered. Some reported strange noises, scratching at the door, a chill across the bed. And while some were comforted by the solitude, others believed that this in between hour wasn't just quiet, it was actually open. And what might slip through from the other side was always uncertain. Midnight marked a threshold. The Tudors believed it was the hour when the world became unstable, when temptation, danger, and unnatural forces grew stronger. Ghosts were said to rise around this time. Witches were believed to leave their beds and travel in spirit, especially on feast days or holy day eves. Between the first and second sleeps, the body was vulnerable and so was the soul. If you woke up between midnight and 2, some said that it meant that the devil had passed near your bed. Others believed it was a warning your conscience was stirring or your spirit was unsettled. Cunning folk, the local healers and wise women, often told people to stay inside during these hours. If you had to go outside, carry iron or wear rosemary sewn into your sleeve. Springtime, like we're in right now, added a whole other layer because fertility spirits were said to roam in May, especially around Beltane, the holiday that once had celebrated the shift from winter to summer. People would avoid traveling under a waning moon, and doors were often marked with chalk or pinned with branches to keep the watchers out. The midnight hour wasn't just a spiritual threat, it was also seen as physically dangerous. Tudor physicians believed that the body was ruled by the humors and that at night, especially between sleeps, vapors could rise from the stomach to the brain. These night vapors were blamed for nightmares, for sleep paralysis, and visions. Some even believed that dreams at this time could be messages from the divine or the demonic. Sleepwalking was poorly understood but widely feared. A person wandering around at night was thought to be under the influence of the spirits, or worse, a witch who was working through them. Pregnant women were told not to be startled or exposed to fear in the night, or it might mark the baby. Midwives recorded cases of infants born in the early hours with physical deformities, and some claimed that it was the hour of birth rather than the mother's actions that invited the bad luck. As springtime came on and the days grew longer, the fear of night didn't fade. In fact, it actually just kind of shifted. With the return of fertility and growth, anxieties turned toward the spiritual dangers of birth, of lust, of the unpredictable forces of the natural world. May Eve, once called Beltane, was considered especially dangerous. People tied rowan branches above doorways or left out little bowls of salt to ward off the spirits. Babies born in the weeks around May Day were said to be more susceptible to fairy theft, and midwives sometimes whispered charms during midnight births. Even the moon was watched. A waning moon in the springtime meant a dangerous season. Animals might fall ill or crops might fail, and walking at night during that cycle was thought to attract misfortune or unseen watchers who had no business among the living. So to the Tudors, this midnight hour in between sleeps was a whole space. It was a whole thing. It was a whole vibe. A space where the rules slipped between first and second sleep, between yesterday and tomorrow, between the living and the dead. What we might dismiss as simple insomnia or menopause, he saw as a warning or an invitation. It was a time to pray, to wait, or fear what might be coming through the cracks. And while we've long since abandoned the 2-sleep nights, at least kind of officially, many people still do it, but we have this idea that you sleep through the night. Some things haven't changed. The dark is still unsettling to us. Midnight still feels strange, and sometimes, even now, when we wake up and stare at the ceiling, it's hard to shake the feeling that we're not entirely alone. So there we go, a little bit about how the Tudors saw that midnight in between sleep hour. If you want to go down the rabbit hole of nighttime in Tudor England the way I have, this book, At Day's Close, highly recommend it. It's really fascinating. There's this whole world that happens at nighttime that we just don't think about that much. So highly recommend that. Okay, friend, if you made it to the end of this video and you're still here with me and you liked it, I sure would appreciate a press of that like button. It helps to feed the algorithm and get our content to even more people. And I hope I earned your subscription to my channel where I put out videos like this on the regular. If you want to keep digging into Tudor insomnia, here's a video that I put out on Tudor sleep remedies, how they fought insomnia. Or here's a video that YouTube thinks you'll like. Thanks so much for being with me today, friend. I hope you have an amazing day. I will be back soon. In the meantime, don't forget to drink your water. All right. Bye-bye.